After several years of traveling Southeast Asia, today's guest, will give a very insightful comparison between Vietnam, Thailand, and the Philippines. It's totally worth your time. So this is Dan of Vagabond a Week, and today we're lucky to have Will. Where are you from in the world, and where are you sitting right now?
From right now, I'm currently in Da Nang, Vietnam, and I am actually born and raised in California, about 30 minutes away from San Francisco, in the city called Vallejo, California.
So you're a traveler, Will. How many countries have you visited so far?
My journey began in 2019 internationally, and I've been to 20 countries since 2019, 10 countries in Asia, 9 countries in Europe, and Mexico.
And so all that started in 2019?
Yes, yes. Just out of a curiosity to travel the world and downsizing at a job that kind of felt like I was stuck in neutral in. They downsized and it just fell into my lap to make my first international travel and haven't looked back ever since.
What are your top 3 countries in the world, Will?
I would have to lean towards Southeast Asia in the order of Vietnam, Thailand, and Philippines. And they're all very, very different, much different pros, much different cons in all 3 of those countries. And I can kind of elaborate on that.
Give us the short story.
Yep. A lot of people ask me, oh, please tell me about the Philippines. Please tell me about Thailand. Please tell me about Vietnam. My most simple, direct answer is Philippines. You're not going to find better English in an Asian country than the Philippines. You have a much better chance of meeting women or just having any kind of general English conversation in the Philippines. In fact, I am here with my girlfriend that is from the Philippines. So I'm a living example of that exact situation. And you get a very, very long-term visa, up to 3 years in the Philippines. So in the pro cons, the Philippines is great for someone that's looking for English, that is looking to meet people or have very easy English connections. And if you want to stay in a country without ever getting on a plane or ever traveling, the Philippines is great. I do have a couple of cons about the Philippines, but we will get on to the pros of Thailand. I love Thailand as well. Bangkok is probably my second favorite city to travel to. And the pros of Thailand is that I love the vibe of Thailand. They have a BTS system. There's almost very, very few Asian cities that allow you to have a metro or a BTS SkyTrain. The food is great in Thailand. Cost of living is fairly good. I love the luxury malls. You have the Terminal 21 in Bangkok, the food courts, and I really like the parks in Bangkok, the open spaces. And I just really, really like the vibe of Bangkok. And then Vietnam, I would say I really, really like the people. I love the city of Da Nang, especially because it matches kind of exactly what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a beach city with an international airport, very, very, very low cost of living. When I say low cost of living, I'm talking about being able to enjoy a decent, good life for under $800 a month, including my girlfriend here. We still stay under $800 a month. Very, very safe. I don't think a lot of people talk enough about how safe Vietnam, especially the city of Da Nang, is. I never, ever, ever worry about my safety here. I would have no problem going down to an ATM at 1 o'clock in the morning, no problem carrying cash on me. I think it's kind of untalked about that people don't really mention Vietnam as being extremely safe country. On the flip side, the thing that I do worry about most in the safety sense here in Vietnam is the crazy scooter traffic. I lean towards Da Nang in Vietnam for a couple of reasons. The cheaper cost of living compared to those 2 previous countries. And also in Vietnam, you do get 90-day visas, which is longer than Thailand, but shorter than the Philippines. But the visa runs here pretty simple. You can either do a flight out to Kuala Lumpur or Bangkok, or what I've been doing recently is doing the bus run from Da Nang to Laos. Start at 6 o'clock in the morning and you're back at 6 o'clock at night. So pretty simple. That's probably the biggest comparisons I would probably make between the three countries.
Well, you nailed it. You nailed it. I'd have to agree with all that. So what would you say are the cons of the three?
The cons, okay, so let me start with the Philippines. Internet is going to be a lot lower quality in the Philippines. The infrastructure, I've traveled a good amount in the Philippines and I've experienced the brownouts, so the electricity going out. Go to the malls or go to the restaurants and you'll always hear, sorry, sir, out of stock. Transportation is more costly and it's not as efficient as Vietnam or Thailand. More poverty in the Philippines. On a flip side, in here in Da Nang, I've never seen anyone come up to me and ask me for money. Thailand, biggest cons, especially if you're a budget traveler like myself, I do a YouTube channel. And the big reason that Da Nang wins in a lot of aspects over the cons of Thailand is Thailand, I'm under 50, so I can't get the retirement visa. So in Thailand, I only get a 60-day visa. So I get 1 month shorter per visa run in Thailand, which means I would have to do 6 visa runs per year to stay in Thailand, whereas in Vietnam, I only have to do 4. And the second kind of con, which some people won't be a con, but for me it is Bangkok is about 20 to 30% more expensive than living in Da Nang. So those would be the two biggest cons for me here in Thailand. And then my biggest cons, I have 2 cons, I would say here. Vietnam is going to have much less English than Thailand and Philippines especially. So that's a kind of a turnoff to a lot of people. And the second con, I guess you can call it, is the 90-day visa. It's not as long as the Philippines, and you do have to get on a bus or a flight every 90 days with no option of a retirement visa or a long-term visa. So I think those are probably the cons of all three.
Well, that's great. And you dropped a number on us for Da Nang. You can do 800 a month with your girlfriend. Drop a number on us for the Philippines.
Technically, you can do pretty close to that in both of those countries. But here's the thing. I live in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment here with all my bills included, electricity, internet, and I'm literally 1 block from the 𝗏 beach. So I get a much bigger, better place here in 1 block off the beach. Now I've done that in Cebu and I've been able to come in around $900-ish, a little under 1,000. But let me remind you, I go out to dinner at a sit-down restaurant every single night here in Da Nang. If I was in Cebu, I would primarily be cooking 70 to 80% of the time. Now, if you want to compare apples to apples, if I lived that same life in Cebu, it would probably cost me about $1,100 to $1,200 minimum. So that would be probably the lowest that you could probably do in a city like Cebu. In Bangkok, I haven't really been in Bangkok in almost a year, so I'm assuming from what everyone's saying, it's gone up a little more. But I was able to do Bangkok in the same quality of style of life that I live here for about $1,000. So Philippines is probably the hardest one to meet my budget financially, and you do get the lower quality stuff and more of the downsides.
Well, you really know your shit, Will. Tell us about Bangkok. What's your ratio on cooking versus restaurants? And by the way, I'm very familiar too with all this data.
So yes, so I love Bangkok. Shockingly, so people always are kind of confused why I love Bangkok. I don't drink, I don't go party, I don't go to clubs, and they say, "Why are you in Bangkok? Why are you in Bangkok?" Right? But I just love the vibe of Bangkok. It just, whenever I go to Bangkok, I just really feel like I'm in Asia. It just gives me a vibe. When I was in Europe, when I went to Paris, I really feel like I'm in Europe when I go to Paris. Same feeling that when I go to Bangkok, I just feel like it's Southeast Asia. It's just the vibe. So getting back to the food, I love the street food out there. I take advantage of great street food. I go to the local restaurants. And I really, really love Terminal 21's food court. I think some people know about the Terminal 21, but a lot of people don't take advantage of it. And I mean, me and my girlfriend went there. Sometimes if we were in Bangkok for a while, we'd go there 2 or 3 nights a week. And you can go to the Chinese food that goes there. They have Indian food, they have Thai food, it's a great place. You get your little Terminal 21 card, you add some money to it, and you go there, and it's awesome, man. Not only is it good, but it's very, very cheap.
Yeah, and again, what's your ratio? How much restaurant, how much home?
Thailand, so luckily enough, I would say almost the same. I would say probably 70% eating out in Thailand. But I gotta be fair and mention that a lot of times if we were gonna cook, we would kind of substitute it with just going to 7-Eleven. It's just so much easier to go to the 7-Elevens and get the great 7-Eleven food. That is the one thing that I miss out in Da Nang, especially, is there's no 7-Elevens here.
Yeah.
So we miss out on the 7-Eleven food. And anybody that's been to Bangkok, they know there is no better 7-Elevens than in Bangkok, or at least Thailand. Bangkok 7-Eleven beats everybody's.
That's the same kind of data I have. The beautiful thing about Vietnam is I can eat there for 30 days and keep my budget down. I mean, eat out every day, like no cooking at home at all. Bangkok's kind of the same thing. I mean, but you can't go to the tourist restaurants, right? You got to go to but the local restaurants, you can pay $1 or $2. So what's your goal of travel?
My big goal is to go to at least 100 countries in my lifetime. Primarily, the biggest reason why I left the United States was I wanted to live a very similar lifestyle that I had in the USA, but at 50% or lower of the cost. So that's the living goal right now, is to just enjoy life, be able to go out, do things that I want, not worry about safety, not worry about crime, not deal with politics, drop myself into a place where I can have a similar lifestyle as the USA, but at least 50% of the cost, because I'm from the Bay Area, and the Bay Area in California is one of the most expensive places in the world.
What's the hard part of all this?
Probably for myself, I've kind of mastered everything else. I know visa's great. I know how to negotiate with landlords on long-term stays. But the one thing that's always eluded me, I guess is technically the hardest part, is income. Because I tell people, don't come out here, don't travel unless you have money or some source of income. So basically, I left the USA, and I had 1 year of Vietnam cost of living. And this is before my channel kind of was even monetized. But I would say the hardest part is having consistent income coming in. That's the hardest part, in my opinion. Is if you have money coming in, you could figure out everything else. But if you don't have money coming in, it is a big, big challenge.
You mentioned your channel. Is your channel to the point now where it's paying for your travel?
No, I'm recouping probably about 60% of what I put out. I spend $750 a month out here, and I'm recouping back probably 60 to 70% on YouTube, and the rest of it just coming straight out of pocket.
What about regrets?
Kind of the standard answer, not realizing about travel earlier, but I didn't really do any real international traveling until I was 37 years old, and I just did not realize, one, just how different the world is and how affordable the world is once you get outside of the United States. Because a lot of people, friends, family back in the USA, and how do you travel so much? And I say, you guys don't understand. I can go travel the world, especially Southeast Asia, for cheaper than it costs to live in the United States. And it just blows people's minds away. And I just wish I would have learned that at an earlier age.
If you're sitting in your home country and you're watching people like you and me do what we do, you cannot believe it until you go do it yourself and realize that it's cheaper to leave than stay home.
I think the biggest thing that I kind of was nervous or feared at the beginning was being in your home country and hearing, I guess, the propaganda of, isn't Vietnam a jungle? Like, what are you going to do out in the jungle? So it's kind of the propaganda that kind of misleads people. But on the flip side, I go to places like Czech, my travel buddy, he's from Prague, and I kind of get the same propaganda from his side. He'll say like, oh, I thought everyone has a gun in the USA and everyone walks around with a gun like a cowboy. And no matter where you're at, the propaganda is one of the biggest things that people need to stop listening to. Just don't listen to the propaganda. Now, I'm not saying none of it's not accurate, but a lot of it is severely overblown. So that would be the biggest thing. And kind of what I touched on before, make sure that you guys have some kind of form of income. It makes traveling a lot easier and a lot more exciting.
Well, you're throwing low numbers and I throw low numbers. And invariably for every video I do like that, somebody's going to say, you need 3,000 a month to live here. You need 3,000 or 2,500. What's the difference between you and them? Why can you do this and they need to spend almost the same damn money they did in the US?
Very, very simple. So in 99% of those cases, Western steak houses every single night, they will get tons of massages and they will want to live a Western lifestyle, which is insane to do when you're living abroad, because that price is 5 times or more in certain cases. Quick example, we go to a great place here called Moon Milk, which is like a kind of like a supermarket. You go there and sometimes I do videos and I just record stuff of the Western imports, like a box of Captain Crunch or something is like $8. A jar of Tostitos salsa, a small one, which probably is maybe $3 back in the USA, is like $9. So if you drink a lot, if you party a lot, if you go eat Western food a lot, it's easy to start spending $2,000. But if you eat local, and you live a non-crazy lifestyle, it's very easy to live here for cheap. Very, very easy.
The other thing you mentioned, I think is critical, is you talked about negotiating with landlords. How do you rent for a month versus somebody, a typical expat who's doing it on Airbnb? Or
this apartment, we've been here at the same landlord for about 1 year this year, and we stayed at our next door place last year. But I am very, very hard when I bargain. So I have my negotiations, I have my requirements. For example, at this place, I told her no security deposit. I want a month-to-month lease, and I had a hard set figure of how much I wanted to pay, including electricity, rent, everything. At first, she told me, "Oh, no, 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 not possible." So I tell all the viewers that watch me, walk away. Walk away. That's our only bargaining power as we have as tourists, is to walk away. So I walked away. The lady contacted me the next day on Facebook and she said, "Why don't you come back? Come back." And I told her simply, I said, "If you're going to require a security deposit and a long-term lease, then I'm not interested." And she said, okay, just come back. So I came back up. And she asked me, "Do you have the rent?" And I said, "I will have the rent, but I'm not going to give a security deposit." She said, "If you can go get the rent, then we'll make a deal." And ever since then, I've stayed here, and people are blown away when they tell me, "Wow, you have no security deposit and you have no lease. It's a month to month."
And where did you find the landlord? Was she on Facebook? Did you walk streets? Because it doesn't sound like you found her on Airbnb. Where'd you find her?
Yeah, 100%. Facebook groups. That's where I look for. Two quick tips. If I go look for a short-term stay at like a hotel, I use Agoda. But if I look for a long-term apartment, then what I do is I go onto Facebook groups. Here in Da Nang, I use expats in Da Nang, or I'll go to the rental Facebook Da Nang rentals. And I have a copied and pasted message, and it says, "I am here from X date to X date. This is my budget. This is what my requirements are. I want a patio. I want 50 square meters. This is my budget." And I even put there, no security deposit and a month-to-month lease. And I post that. You will get a ton of messages. I promise you guys will get 30, 40 messages. Half of them will be talking about renting you a scooter or taking you to Bana Hills. You got to weed through them. So you do have to do the footwork, but you will get a few decent messages. And then you got to go do the footwork. You got to go take a look, make sure there's no mold, make sure that this landlord seems trustworthy, and kind of do your homework on that. It does take time, and a lot of people don't want to do that. And that's why maybe they kind of get wrapped into long-term leases or end up paying more, because you do have to do the footwork.
That's really great. That's all great advice. So Will, tell us tell us the name of your channel and tell us about what you like to talk about on there so my listeners can go over there and take a peek if they want to.
Yes, the name of the channel is Will Travels. It's all one word and not an S at the end, it's a Z. So it's Will Travels with a Z, and it's basically a travel budget site. I do give advice on how to do visas here in Vietnam, how to rent apartments, just everything. And I've recently been doing a lot of live streams. So if anyone's interested in actually seeing the real to the minute update live streams of Da Nang, I do those almost on a daily basis.
Will, thanks for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate being on here.
If you like my free ebook about how I fired my boss and traveled the world for 17 years and how I pay for things, come to 𝗥𝗏𝗄𝐿 and grab the free ebook. I have over 80 interviews with people all over the world. If you enjoyed this video, watch my YouTube playlist of interviews.